Evening all, April 9th, 2015, The Ochelli Effect. I'm your host, Chuck Ochelli, here on UCY.TV radio. So, it's another day, and of course, this week we are confronted with one of those wondrous imaginary things that they say doesn't really happen in this country. You know, a police shooting, that this time they actually have the shooting on video completely without a problem, and, isn't that a wonderful thing? You know, the Black Lives Matter campaign is still going on, but, to me it's like all lives matter, and this kind of crap needs to stop, and regardless of what was going on. And I don't know, I looked at it long enough to see that it looked like the guy was trying to plant a taser on his victim. Things that pissed me off for 300, Alex. Anyway, I will delve into that. I'm trying to get somebody to come on and comment about these things. Who knows, maybe my guest tonight will do that as well. An independent broadcaster, also somebody who is involved with the coalition, as it's been dubbed, on Facebook and all that kind of stuff, which also I am a participating member as well, where we try to actually cross-promote each other a little bit, alternative radio people, and get our voices out to each other's audiences, because the fact is that resistance is definitely one of the things that we are all in agreement about. Now, my guest tonight might be in a slightly different realm, and we might have a lot of disagreements. I'm not really sure. We will find out very shortly. So hopefully he'll be calling in, and normally I would try and pick him up early and do that, but I wanted to keep this one totally fresh. We never had this discussion, and yes, hello, Schmutzy, by the way. Yes, and yeah, cops are like that. And you can also join in at the chat room and all that kind of good stuff at ucy.tv/TOE. The chat room, the archives, all that kind of good stuff is there. Let's see. Oh, yeah, also I'm doing another experiment where on Facebook in the Ochelli Effect Radio Show discussion group, you can interact there, and I will add your questions or comments to the discussion as well. So if you haven't requested to join that discussion group on Facebook and you're interested in doing stuff like that, feel free to do that as well. Anyway, it's been a very, very tough week around the house. And I'm sure we'll probably get into more of those discussions on Jaded, which is turning into quite the comedy show on Saturday night, too. By the way, that's the one that follows me that Kim does. Don't forget about that. So, hopefully Mr. Beesinger will be joining me shortly. So, as I said, yeah, the Facebook thing, I am letting people interact live with the show there as well. So I'm bouncing between the chat room and the Facebook. So either way, if somebody hears me and, is listening and trying to participate and I kind of miss your comments, repeat them. Because, the blind guy has trouble bouncing back and forth. So, anyway, back to this whole wonderful situation in South Carolina, just south of me, because I'm sitting in North Carolina. Don't know how much real resonant difference there is between the two places, but I do see on this video, again, which I watched it a few times, and I do often imagine what it would be like for, to be the family member of somebody who is the victim in a viral video and is actually, being witnessed by half of the world at this point as being murdered. It does make an interesting kind of psychological play in my mind. What would I do? How would I react? And of course, like I said before, I really am not all about playing up the whole racial end of this, because I think this is a much larger problem. As I've discussed several times, I am not happy with the militarization of the police as it exists. I am not happy with the change, the marked change that I've seen in my lifetime. Okay, this is not the country that I was taught about when I was a boy. It just isn't. And I'll tell you what's interesting about Beesinger, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I'll find out shortly. He actually invited me to go on one of his network shows because he's got 6 hosts over there. He broadcasts like 7 nights a week. I think it's through Blog Talk and all that. But network together as a bunch of people working together and actually trying to promote libertarian ideas, which are of interest to me. Although I've got to say that lately, I have been drifting quite a bit more to the minarchist, anarchist type camp, as it were, philosophically. And part of that reason is, again, I hate to borrow a phrase, but the slippery slope, right, that they keep telling us about when it comes to all of these different subdivisions of problems and possibilities in the public's mind, in the public psyche. Well, you know what? There's no real division for me when it comes to this police state issue, because all we have seen is the increased armaments, the increased stature in the public's mind of people who are supposed to be hired to be public servants, who are supposed to protect and serve. And I'm not one of these people that says they're all out of their minds. But you know what? One of the points that's always made to me when I say, look, not every cop is bad, is that, there are too many of them that seem to be standing by and allowing the bad ones to run rampant, right? So, but you see, the counterpoint to that, my friends, is that until you've actually walked in somebody's shoes, until you understand what it is to actually be a whistleblower, to pay with your livelihood, to possibly pay with your life for speaking out against the wrong people, you don't really have a right to judge some of these other people that are trying to do the good work in their positions. At least that's how I feel about it. Now, I know, you can't be an anarchist and show any sort of a soft spot for the cops. I know that. That's why I don't identify myself as. I'd love to see the constitutional republic restored. I really would. But the fact is, we've gotten so far away from it by now, okay, that, hey, what is the condition we're in? Well, I constantly identify it on this show, don't I? That we are in a constantly evolving corporatist and therefore fascist situation, especially in an economic sense, but in a social sense even. The corporation and the greater corporations which revolve around the singular corporation of the United States of America, in that universe, all of them serving each other and being gravitationally pulled to one another. This is all one big functioning model, and this is what we have at this point, is a sort of neo-fascist existence. But of course, the iron fist residing in the velvet glove still, because a whole lot of people have not really gotten that straight-on punch in the face. But more and more of us every single day seem to be getting beat up on by the corporate interests, and seem to be getting attacked by the corporate interests, and seem to be getting beaten upon by their stooges, and et cetera, et cetera. See, and now there are some of you out there that are saying, well, now he's starting to sound a little bit like one of those other communist, hippie type radical people. Whatever you do, don't ever call me a hippie. Anyway, so trying to survive each and every single day in this wondrous construct that they call America, this point. You know, not just because Obama screwed everything up, but because of the gradual decrease in our civil liberties, because of the gradual destruction in our culture, in our society. And I don't even necessarily support and believe in all of the standard old school kind of values. No, that's not what I'm about. But this twisting and bending everything to a point where there is no relative center of the universe regarding anybody's morality, regarding anybody's belief system in any way, shape, or form. All of this brings us to the point that we're at now, where there is no correct answer. There is no correct answer regarding anything, even regarding what you would try to categorize individuals as or have them identify themselves as. All of these things have all become so convoluted at this point that there are no points of identification. And can we just be singular human beings who subsist on our own and deal with our own lives on a daily basis? Well, that does leave a whole lot of not-haves out in the cold, right? And we don't want to be a cruel society, but we do want to promote self-reliance. Well, what do you do with those who can't rely upon themselves? I mean, how many individuals are out there at this point in time who have been heavily damaged through no fault of their own via the poorly informed decisions of their parents to be vaccinated, to be fluoridated, to be GMO inundated with all of the wondrous and terrible technological terrors of modern society, right? What do you do with all those people? If we turn over tomorrow and abandon all forms of frameworks that reside in any government, what do you do? Let the weak ones die off, I guess. Anyway, if this keeps up, I'm going to have to try and call Mr. Beesinger in, but let's see where it's at. Because I'm not seeing this yet. Everything running slow, too. I was battling serious computer problems all day yesterday. Gotta love that. Don't know how it is. 99% of my CPU is getting used up on a machine that's not exactly that old. Thank you, Windows 8. Everything is nice and complicated, so I can't possibly figure out what the hell is going on. Gotta love that. And as I went to broadcast everything running like mud today, well, who knows? Maybe I can't even see what's going on in the interactions. So, let's see. See where my friend here is at. So as I said, when we get down to this discussion, we're going to find out a little bit of a difference. I mean, like I'm trying to explain that I'm sort of a work in progress when it comes to the old school sort of libertarian ideas. Okay? And I think that my guest is kind of more along those lines. And still trying to pull him in. Let's not let anything run like it isn't mud today. Let's not do that. Because that would just make life too easy. Alrighty. Let's see what we can do here. Alright, I guess I'm going to have to go the extra mile here and go get the other number and actually call them in on the other number, and who knows what it'll sound like. But here we go. So back to it. Like I was saying, I'm the ever-evolving individual when it comes to this stuff. I did start out with an idea sometime not too long ago, thinking that restoration of the constitutional republic might be the best idea. But as I continue to investigate, it seems as though, First of all, that's not even a remote possibility anymore. Okay, that ship has way past sailed. All right, but not only that, but is it really that was set up, properly in the first place? Well, not exactly sure if that's the case. Now, let's see here. Okay. Oh, God, I hate this thing. Windows is an issue. So, let's see here. You know what? If I gotta just dial it my damn self, I will. Not how I wanted to do this, I'll tell you. Anyway, the evolution of the problem, as I'm sitting here struggling with the wonders of modern technology, the evolution of said problem, of course, is, here we go. Okay. No, you're not going to give me the numbers, eh? Okay. Let's try this. Tell you, Bill Gates doesn't want to make anything easy, does he? Here we go. Well, you're on the air.
Hi, Chuck. How are you tonight?
Oh, there you are. Okay, how you doing?
I get confused to these time zones. I'm a Mississippi boy. We're not exactly smart in that area.
I was just trying to dial you, and couldn't do it. So how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Man, I apologize for being late. I was looking at 6 o'clock at my time, and I'm like, and you sent me that message. I'm like, okay.
See, and I was talking about how you and I are going to look at things a little bit differently and all that kind of stuff. I had a big old setup for you, but I wanted you to direct everybody to your work and explain to them, exactly what it is you do. So, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's just start from the top and, tell everybody your name and what it is that you're attached to. I already explained kind of the coalition thing, but if you want to explain that too, you can do that. Go ahead. We'll start from there.
Okay. My name is Bobby Beesinger. Back in August of 28th of last year, I created World Integrity News Network, mainly because of the fact that just got tired of the lies and spin and the division being created by mass media today. Our group has news pages now in 4 countries. We have a total of 14 Facebook pages. We are doing 7 radio shows per week. And it's all about education through correct information. And we try to steer away from preaching to the choir and try to basically maintain an effort and a stance of not neutrality, because we take some really hardcore stands on issues, but basically approaching it in a way to where everyone can actually identify with situations, and I think a lot of people today have a great aspect of wanting to be a part of something, but there are so many negatives out there that keeps them away from it. So we try to keep everything open, and so the problem that I have, Chuck, is that you have so many people. Say you have 50 million people on the far right that you can't reach. You got 50 million people on the far left you can't reach. Then you got 250 million people are sitting there playing dodgeball from the right and the left. And they're sitting there not represented, and they're not, and people aren't even trying to reach them, because these guys on both sides of the fence are so entrenched in their beliefs that they can't come back to the middle to represent the nation as a whole. And you come to find out, and something I found out, whether you are liberal or conservative, Democrat, Republican, most people have the same goals in life. They want to be able to get up in the morning and have breakfast with their family, send their kids to school, come home, and get off, and, have dinner with their children, have a little family time, maybe go to kids' baseball games, things like that. And basically, we're trying to just reach out to humanity and let people embrace the humanity side of things again without the labels. That's what we're out to do. I mean, that's the whole effect. Right now, we're involved in a major corruption scandal that's going on in Henderson, North Carolina, over Child Protective Services. The things that they're doing out there, man, are just are deplorable at best. And there's a lot of that going on in our government today, and most of it's because the people of the United States really aren't paying attention anymore.
Well, see, and that's where I sort of started off the show talking about, how it was that not too long ago I was one of these people that very staunchly felt as though we should return to the constitutional republic, and that has gotten far away from us. Over time, I have grown to question that as well, that things are just completely out of hand. And one thing is for certain, something is very, very wrong with the entire situation. We may all be coming at it from different angles, but this is really the starting point for anybody that wants to get out and try and go with an alternative media platform and try and do their own thing, is that we all see that, first of all, the mainstream is lying to us, okay? Lying to us, misleading us, and manipulating us. That's the best that they're doing on a good day. And we're looking for another voice. Now, I can appreciate the entire idea, and I'll say something that I found kind of funny between you and I. We're live, but hey, look, here's the funny part. You had invited me to step right on in when I talked to you about coming on this show to one of your shows to discuss God and country. And to tell you the truth, I'm probably the worst guest you could possibly pick on that. So believe me, I was doing you a favor when I didn't want to go on and do it. I would love to come on any one of your shows and talk about any one of my views, but that one would have been messy. Okay.
And I respect that. Hey, there's nothing wrong with a man that comes with warning labels.
There you go, and that is certainly me. And again, I'm not trying to minimize where you're at or anything like that. I'm just giving you an idea because I got a feeling that you're not entirely familiar with where I come from. So we're sort of doing this for the audience together, actually having this discussion. You know what I mean? And I want to promote what it is you're doing because, believe me, I support it. Anything that is not part of that left-right paradigm, anything that is about getting out real information, anything that is about actually talking about facts and the realities of things. Because I took a listen to one of those CPS shows of yours, okay, over there, and I don't remember the title because I was just listening to it in the background. I do that a lot. And I was listening to it, and I was listening to your people paying attention to the fact that there are serious legal, complications to a lot of that story. I was listening to them letting people get their story out. I was listening to something that sounded like honest journalism. And I missed that, sir. So I want to give you a tip of the hat on that one.
Welcome to our world, because that's exactly what we mean to do. I mean, just like I have never, many years of being in the journalist business, that I have never met a stone wall like I have investigating this one. Usually when you're dealing with situations like that, somebody on the other side wants to tell you their side of the story. Oh, no, sir. They have no time for me. They do not answer phone calls. When WINN makes a phone call to a government office in North Carolina, it doesn't even get answered.
No, and I can tell you why, because I'm sitting in North Carolina, boss.
Oh, okay.
They don't, it is really strange because I moved here from New Jersey. You can tell I don't have a North Carolina accent. All right. But I moved here from New Jersey, and I thought things would be, a lot easier. It's a cheaper place to be. It seemed like people were nicer whenever I came to visit. People are more pleasant down south. They just are. Okay, there's a lot less tension in the air, you know what I mean, as opposed to New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, all those states I had lived in. All right. And I thought this would be a good place. But here's the one thing that I did not reckon with when I came down here, and that is that you're talking about a closed society in general in these states.
Oh, yes, sir.
I mean, not
Yes,
only
sir.
in the bureaucratic world, but the people in general in a town and everything else, they clam right up. They don't want to talk to an outsider of any kind. So don't feel bad that it's you, because I guarantee you, anybody that they don't want to cooperate with, you hit the wall of silence, brother.
Well, that's okay. I like the wall of silence because you know what that makes me do? That just makes me dig in deeper, get into more records and read more court stuff. And the great thing about a closed society like that, they're so closed in, they don't think anybody else can get in to reach them, and they get sloppy. Hey, and that's beautiful. I love it.
Oh, you got it. Plus, they always forget about the fact that, and I don't know why this is, but they don't seem to understand that there is some public knowledge that we can still get, in what's left of our country, in my opinion. You can still go and get yourself those public documents if you know where to go. You can still get a hold of those court transcripts if you know where to go and you're willing to put in the effort. You know what I mean? And a lot of times these people think that all that stuff is just buried nice and quiet because their local newspapers didn't cover it, which is a weird thing down here. And it's something that I'm trying to readjust to, because, again, in New Jersey or New York or something like that, anybody who's even got a relative name or makes a fuss anywhere in town or whatever else, believe me, the papers are willing to cover it. The local cable access wants to cover it. I mean, they twist it all around, but it gets out there. Here, it's like, shh. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, what amazes me about it was, when I started looking into this, because if you listen to the opening of that show that you're talking about, I think you probably heard me say I do not like doing these shows. And the reason why I don't like doing shows on CPS because you have so many parents that want to tell their side of the story because they know that the people involved in CPS really can't talk to me, the journalist, about their cases. So therefore, you kind of open yourself up really big to misinformation from the people that you're trying to help because they're trying to sell you something that's just not there. And so you have to be we were very, very careful when we presented this first case with Rudy Orr. Went through a lot of documents before I decided that we would even air this show. And then these other people, and oh my God, do never, ever, ever put your phone number on a show concerning CPS because I literally, the WINN phone rang all that night, all the next day, and the next day from people wanting to tell us stories about things that are going on in Henderson. In Henderson, this is one city in North Carolina. I'm like, okay, this is going on here, all of this. So I started having to open my eyes a little bit more to it, and we've actually set up a website already, like not a website, but a email address, so we can actually address all the information that we're getting. But man, would you believe that in this city, I just blew my mind. Now there's one law firm that the lady that represents CPS is part of. The same law firm has a city attorney in it. The same law firm is the one that furnishes the court-appointed public defenders to represent the people against CPS. But they don't see any conflict of interest there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but this is what these kind of cases are all riddled with, is a whole lot of conflicts of interest. And excuse me, not only that, but the participants in the CPS cases, and I can tell you that this is not, just a Henderson problem, obviously. I mean, that. Right. These kind of problems are everywhere. They're given, this color of law ability to turn around and enforce all kinds of court orders when they don't even require a judge's signature off the bat. They get it later. This kind of stuff is endemic all over the country. And I mean, it doesn't even matter if we're talking about, the CPS in this state or that state, or what we used to call DIFUS in New Jersey. All of these organizations, eventually, when somebody does decide to dig into them, you find out that there's all sorts of abuses of, not only the kids directly, but, the families that they're trying to help in a lot of cases. But you have to be extremely careful about this stuff because, look, let's be honest, in some cases, there are people that, God help us all, they need some intervention of some kind. Okay? But this wasn't necessarily the case, and this is always messy, right? And I found that extremely fascinating, and how responsible you were with doing that, because I've heard other people, try and display these stories, and you get the one side, which is, somebody ranting and raving that they're angry because things went against them, and in the reality is, unless you really know the whole story, you don't know if that was a blessing or not. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, sometimes, we've had people on the show that, especially when you're doing these shows, and then you have a last-minute cancellation for a guest. Then you got to scramble. And then when you scramble, that's when you start making mistakes, which I usually go back to people I've already had on the show and see if they want to come back before I do that. But we've had a few people. I had one guy on one night, was talking about a CPS case. The guy's running for sheriff. I'm not going to mention his name out of being professional, but started sending me documents, and I started listening to what my radio host actually that night was actually saying on the air, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So I started asking the guy for his documents. Well, he started sending me all these documents, and I'm like, oh, no. First thing you look at, the case file was 000000099. Okay. No, and first thing, when you talk about child cases, it all starts with a letter in front of it when it comes to a child's case. That's a national thing, so it can be identified. Number
Right.
two is that this piece of paper was filed in probate court. Is this child dead? Is the family dead?
Well, right, because probate court would only be required for somebody to adjudicate a will, to certify, the dispensation regarding people's estates. That's usually what probate court does. I mean, it does that and some name changes and things like that. But I mean, generally speaking, if it's filed in probate court, you're not looking at a family court issue, which in a lot of states it's an FC or an FS number, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you look. Then I asked the guy. I said, "Wait a minute. Well, I kind of photoshopped those documents to support my story. Everybody else does it. Not on my network. You don't. Goodbye."
How? You know what? When this is the weird thing in the age of modern electronic media. Okay, a lot of people say, "Well, I photoshopped it, but it was for a good purpose, or I altered it for a good." This is exactly the point of documentation, which has gotten warped all over the internet. You know what I mean?
It'll lie. It still makes it a fabricated lie, and I don't promote that. I'm not going to be a part of that. And
right.
And believe it or not, and what scared me more than anything else, this guy's running for sheriff. That scared the hell out of me. Excuse me, it scared the heck out of me, my friend.
No, and that's the thing too, is you're not even talking about a complainant. Somebody who's uneducated doesn't realize that what it means to actually forge a document. Okay, you're talking about an officer of the law who's supposed to know better. Oh man.
Yeah, I'm thinking, good Lord, what you're wanting to be sheriff of this town, and you're fabricating a CPS document? Good Lord, if one of your officers accidentally shoots somebody, what you're planning on doing?
Well, right. If you're willing to fabricate documents there, why not turn around and change autopsy reports and things like that to make your point? Why not do that? I mean, murder investigations are, hey, just as important, right?
Yeah. We've got to looking into this North Carolina thing, man, and you got elected officials that are all entwined in the CPS system that own the buildings that they're sending the parents to for classes to learn how to be better parents, being taught by individuals that are related to these people, but you don't see it. But they still don't see a conflict of interest here. Why? Because the great thing about any story, Chuck, and you know this as well as I do, if you really want to find the truth, you got to do one thing. What's that? Follow the money.
Oh, yeah. Because all this stuff winds up at the end of the line, there's usually a for-profit reason behind injustice of any kind. At least that's what I see. I mean, look, you got the for-profit prison systems, and people wind up getting kickbacks for different things. I mean, some of them gotten busted over the years, some of the more obvious sort of scams. But look, if somebody turns around and they happen to have, a financial interest in how many prisoners are getting locked up this year, and they happen to be in a position where they can bring more prisoners in, and meanwhile, I'm talking about a hypothetical here that's disconnected from what you're talking about, but the reality works the same way, right? If you got a judge who owns stock in a prison company, you know what? It might be in his personal best interest to not necessarily serve justice, but to serve himself. And this is the kind of thing that goes on even with CPS stuff. And these parenting classes, I don't know what they're like in North Carolina. I have not been. I mean, I have a 9-month-old, and I have not been put into the system here. But you know what? My experiences in past places. Let me tell you something. They make assumptions about people. They turn around and do things, and then they want to force upon you all these different requirements in order for you to retain custody of your own child. And a lot of times it makes absolutely no sense what they're doing. But like you said, if you dig hard enough, you start to come up with the for-profit reason. And this is usually how these things go.
Always. It's always about the money. And especially like you said, in a closed society like that, they all think they're protected because no one's talking, but they forget of all the public information that's really out there that you can actually uncover just by doing a little polite digging, it's like they asking me the other day, so you're going to use this to break this on a big story to make a name for yourself, and I said, nope, actually we're not going to even cover the story, not until we do one thing. We're getting all of our ducks in a row. We're getting all of our legal people that are volunteers on our team to actually put the case together. So when we present it to the Federal Bureau of Investigation for fraud and to the U.S. Attorney's Office, they don't have far to go to see where the wrongdoing is going, and therefore I'm not in this to support my ego, to support my network. I'm in this to actually make a difference in the world in a positive way, and doing it, slaying one dragon at a time, and that's what we're geared to do it with. And I get yourself. Yeah, and let me go one step further. When you're dealing with a lot of the patriot groups, and I love my patriot groups, I really do, but I keep telling these guys, you guys need to get yourself one banner and unite all of you guys under one banner to make all this work and make it look like an orchestrated, well-formed front. But when you've got a bunch of testosterone and ego running systems, you have a problem. Us guys, we kind of like our little power. We have our little worlds that we like to be dominant over, and because that's where we're God, and that's how we were actually wired. But we have to come away from that sometime.
Well, right, and this is the trouble too, is trying to unify people, under the idea of well, all right, let's take a step back, because we got kind of in depth about this, and I do appreciate going into this with you, but I want to talk a little bit about the network of people and the team that you put together, because you did bring them up. You have a lot of guys working with you, guys and girls, and I wanted to give a little shout out to them as well, and talk about what's going on. Give us a roster of your shows and the people that are working behind the scenes too, because you got a lot of people working behind the scenes, not just broadcasters.
Oh man, we've got so far we're 6 months old. We have a program director. I have an assistant program director. We have our own legal team. We have our own IT department. We have our own graphics department. Todd and Lisa Bakke, awesome in graphics. Robert Kilpatrick, Paul Kent, Bub Connolly III, awesome when it comes to keeping the shows running. We've got people all over the pages. We've got Darlene Bond and Gene Strong, and I can't even Miss Julie and there's Raquel and Francis and James, and if I could sit here and list all day, and I'm just going to say this much: I'll handpick these people, and the way I handpick these people all don't think alike. All these people are very diversified in the way that they present their information, and it gives your readers a fresh perspective of things, because sometimes I will point the same story to two different people with different perspectives and have them put it up on the page. That gives us that center mass that I've been looking for. Gives people the alternative. It's both of the information, both the way the information is presented is as truths, but the perspectives of the truth. Every truth has its own perspective, and it still doesn't make it true, but doesn't make it untrue. It just makes a person's different way of thinking on an issue, and that's what we try to accomplish to give people the ability to have avenues to think for themselves. Because we tell everybody on every radio show we do, please, for God's sake, don't listen to what I say. Don't take what I say to be written in stone. Get off the radio, get out in front of the TV, and get out there and get the information yourself, just like we do. Learn, be educated, be informed, be a real American, because your forefathers left you one job, and that's to keep an eye on your government. And yet you've let your government keep an eye on you, and that's where you've messed up, America.
And this is a generational affair. I mean, this didn't happen overnight, the situation we find ourselves in. And you're absolutely right when it comes down to that. I've just, it's just like I said, and I was struggling to explain this at the top of the show, that I haven't really come down on exactly where it is all of my emotions and ideas have come together here. Because, look, I've gotten to a point, like I said, where, there was a long time there where I was, willing to scream and yell and stomp my feet about the idea that we should return to the rights that we were meant to have to begin with. We should return to the very minimal sort of government, that we were meant to have based on the things that were laid, before us in our Constitution. I really was a constitutionalist of sorts. But as time has gone on, I mean, I'm not sure. And this is a philosophical debate I'm constantly having with myself. I'm not sure if it's too far gone yet, I think that you're not of that opinion, but I'm coming to that opinion. I'm not necessarily all the way there yet, but I'm getting to it. How do you feel about that kind of stuff? Because that's part of what changes up what's under the libertarian banner, or the free-thinking human banner, or whatever it is you want to call it at this point. That's part of the divisions in the tent, if you will, is that you got people that are thinking that we need to absolutely return to the bare bones that we were supposed to have, in the beginning. And you have others that think, look, you know what, it's all failed. And what do you do with something that's broke down? You can either repair it or replace it. And if it's too damaged, you have to replace it. How do you come down on that?
Well, it's like this. The Constitution is a living document. Everyone that says it's written in blood, it was written in blood. Yes, it was, because a lot of people died to protect it and to make sure it come about. Our Constitution is pretty much modeled after the one in France to a great degree, and it's been around for a lot longer than ours has. But what we have to do as a people is, number one, being the fact that a republic constitution is an awesome thing. I will die to protect it. But at the same time, you have to look at all the stuff that's been added to it over the years. And a lot of it's been added to it over the years unconstitutionally. People don't even realize that the last 4 amendments were never even ratified by the states. They were just stuck there. And according to Article 5 of the Constitution, to add an amendment to the Constitution, you have to have the states ratify it. And they just said, oh, yay, whatever, and basically pushed it through. The IRS is an illegal entity according to our Constitution. I'll give you another thought when it comes to the Constitution. it's like a computer sometimes. Life is like a computer. Sometimes you got to stop and reboot. And I think we've got to the point where we have to stop and reboot, go back to the basics, build from the basics to today's time, go to the basics to today's time, and actually address issues that are pertinent to today. And we got to stop, and we got to really, when we rebuild this thing, we've got to put fail safes in place that says one thing: money cannot be part of politics. Money cannot be part of government. And if we do that, as a people, and get rid of the lobbyists, and get rid of, these are my ideas. I'll just tell you, because they were a lot of people wanted me to run for the big office, and I'm like, do I really want that kind of job? Do I really want to put my family and friends through that? If I was called, I would stand up and serve my country, of course. But at the same time, there's some really easy fixes here. Number one thing, every network should have to give every person equal time on the air, regardless of how much money. No man should be able to spend more on his campaign than the guy underling under him.
So you're very much for the return of the fairness doctrine, which did exist, up until a few decades ago, where you had to allow equal time, for everybody, and that wasn't just you have to give a half of it to the Republicans and half of it to the Democrats. No, sir, that included if you were doing a gubernatorial race in a state, you had to allow if there was a Nazi Party guy running, you had to allow him to come on the air. You had to allow the communist guy running or whatever else. Any political party that could get enough signatures that had a valid spot on the ballot, you had to allow them on your airwaves. So you're for a return to the fairness doctrine, then, right?
Right. You should not be able to outspend your fellow American on a position in this country, because that's buying an office, and that should be illegal. I had one of the people that are running for president ask me if they were to win, what job that I would want. And I want to give you a thought. I'm going to ask you a question here. Who do you think is the most powerful man in America that can change American opinion overnight?
Well, that's a tough call at this point. You know what I mean?
Okay. This is my thoughts on the matter.
Go ahead.
Let the man that runs the Federal Communications Commission, if he were to take that document and go back to the original way the FCC was set up with original laws and bylaws, without all these other references and stuff that are included, and the American people and the American news agency were forced to tell the truth or have massive fines, I would have no problem sitting up there with George Soros and Ted Turner and and Murdoch and all that group and say, hey, you will inform the American people the truth. No slant, no spin. And if you don't, we're going to pay off the national debt with the fines I'm going to levy against your network. Hey, look, you could change it overnight right there.
I would love to see that happen. But, what do you say to somebody who goes, look, the mechanism, okay, first of all, let's dial it back a little bit. The FCC originally was only meant to be there to make sure that people's signals didn't cross over each other and screw things up. That's what they were supposed to do. Okay, they were for the regulation of communication, literally. Okay, that was it. When you talk about, the material that's being broadcast, at this point, we're in Never Never Land. You can't hardly tell the news networks from the, from the educational networks, from the whatever at this point, right? It's all a big mess. And they're all owned by, 5 corporations is it now, or is it 6? I forget. But they're all owned by the same big groups of individuals who contribute to, put people in office that would have to, have to certify people like the guy who runs the FCC and everything else. The guys who put those people in those positions are all bought and paid for by those same networks that are all BSing everybody anyway. You know what I mean?
You're right. That's what I'm saying. When we get to the point, when we take the time as American people, and when I first started this, I really thought we could do this without a fight coming. I really thought that this was going to happen by using the Constitution and its legal references through Article 5 and getting some things done. And yes, it could still be done that way. But I think they're pushing so hard on the American public right now. And you're talking about 200 million people that's sitting in the middle that are gonna finally get sick of it, because they those guys are the ones that are out there doing all the grunt work. Those are the guys that are out there doing all of the manual labor. Those guys are out there trying to create a life for themselves and their families. And they can't do it because they're being taxed to death to be able to support an agenda being brought about by the federal government. And the federal government's job was to secure the borders and prepare for the common defense, period. Mm-hmm. And let the states run their own businesses. And guess what? It worked real well for a long time, until, we started doing Article 7. Then we started doing Amendment 17, Amendment 14, and 15, and then they started taking those rights away from the states, started taking power away from the states. At one time, you paid your taxes to the state. The federal government actually requisitioned money from the states to run the federal government their part. Now, all the states pay the money to the federal government, then it comes back to the states. That gives the federal government the little ties and the little puppet strings to be able to control what's going on. It's something that, and the bad thing about it is it didn't happen yesterday. And I'm going to make something very clear to folks. I don't blame Obama for our problems. I don't blame George Bush for our problems, or Bill Clinton, or Reagan, or any of those. I blame each and every one of you listening to this radio station that looks in the mirror in the morning, that has not done your job and has gotten to know who you're voting for, what they stand for, and how well they have represented you in other offices or their thoughts on different things. That's who I blame. It's nobody to blame. You can't blame anybody but your average American citizen, because they just would rather let somebody else do it, period.
Well, see, and at the same time, you got like the sleepwalker syndrome, which is, partially the fault of the individual out there, but has also been done by design. Like you stated, you're kept in a continuous, really the definition of a vicious cycle, where you're kind of a hamster running on that wheel, and you're running for your food, and you got to keep running to make the food, and then the food comes and you eat it, and then you got to run to get the food. You know what I mean? That's the way it works. Now, along those lines, to me, I trace this whole problem way before the birth of Obama. I look at the formation of our third central bank, the Federal Reserve, right? I mean, how do you feel about that situation in the monetary system as it's designed? Because there, in fact, to me, lies the root of the whole problem.
Well, the reason why they left the gold standard is because they could not, as long as we were on the gold standard, we were not able to evolve outside of our own economy, which I had no problem with us staying inside of our own economy. The economy could only grow so large because we only had so much gold. And so they come back with the Federal Reserve System, which is basically nothing but fairyland money. I get amazed, Chuck. I listen to all these fear mongers out there. We're going broke. We're going broke. We're doing this. We're doing. Well, I had to educate some folks one night, and it really made a lot of my right-wing or fear monger people mad at me, because I actually gave these people the actual truth. Well, the United States is not broke. Yes, we're in debt. We have $187 trillion in assets across the world. We have 2 oil fields in the middle of the country that has more oil in it. One of them has more oil in it than all of Saudi Arabia. And good God, do you realize we could take all of our World War II armaments that we still have in storage, munitions, and sell them to foreign governments and still be superior and pay off our debt? It amazes me that they run around here and talk about we're going under. We're going under. Yes, we are foundering. Yes, we do have some serious problems within the country, but most of those problems have come around because we have left the idea of American exceptionalism. We have left the idea of being an American, and we've embraced the idea of being me, and we stopped being we the people. And that's something that's really got to change. We got to start getting out in our communities and getting to know who our neighbors are, finding out what our neighbors needs. You know, I have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home. Okay, I got 4 people living here that don't have homes. I open up my house to that, and I try to do for my fellow man. But you know, charity has to come from home. And, you know, and most of all, morals have to come from, and principles have to be taught from home, not school. I mean, was never the educational system's process, was to teach principles and morals. It was supposed to teach them how to add, subtract, you know, and be able to live life. You know, it's the whole situation, and again, it's about money. I mean, Chuck, when you went to school, I bet you had the girls had home ec and the boys had shop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you what happened to that, so I can educate the people here what happened to that. So we took home ec and we took shop out of our high schools. Now our kids can read and write and add, subtract, but they're not prepared to do a job at all when they leave high school. So therefore, now the federal government can send your children to all these technical schools to learn the stuff that you used to learn in high school, and they can get student loan money and make money off of the interest on the student loans, and bury your young people, your next generations, in so much student debt that they can't ever get out from under it. Now, why can't we as a people get smart enough to get rid of agencies like the DEA? I mean, in a war we're never going to win. And, you know, start putting that money in education from the first grade up about drugs. Let's take the rest of that money and put it in education. Let's make it to where the guys that actually get out there and actually exceed in their classes leave college with no debt. Have a gradual effect. If you have a 4.0, your debt's forgiven. If you have a 3.8, you've got only 10% of your debt, and do it on a gradual scale. That gives people the incentive to actually work for better grades and create a better world for themselves instead of just giving it to them. Let them earn it. I'm against I mean, I don't mind helping anybody, but just giving people stuff never done anything for anybody. Really, it never has. Just, you know, just print more money, give them checks so they'll be quiet over on the other side of town. And that's the problem with America.
Well, that is one of the problems for sure. But to me, you know, it has become like the global problem as opposed to taking care of ourselves here. You know, the fact is that we are engaged in these wars, which, you know, let's talk about the cost of that too, right? We're engaged in wars, and we're literally the American empire across the planet at this point. We have military installations in something like 170 countries, okay? That is absolutely uncalled for and not necessary. That is a whole lot of expenditure, my friend. I mean, think about that too. I mean, if we took that and put it into education, not just drug education, because I do agree with you, the drug war is, first of all, a losing battle, and second of all, is really just a fiction unto itself. Go ahead.
The CIA is actually running most of it.
Well, that was exactly my next point, is that, you know, between the DEA, and in fact, you can find that the DEA and the CIA and all of these other alphabet soup agencies are generally involved in the trafficking, protection of, and everything else in one way or another, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. You know, this is part of our international presence as well, a lot of money being wasted again, and to the detriment of society, as, you know, like I point out all the time. You know, when we were in Vietnam, we had an illicit street drug problem called the heroin epidemic. Gee, that was kind of coincidental considering that our military troops and our intelligence assets were right there next to the Golden Triangle, right? Then, of course, as we, you know, limped away from the Vietnam experience, what happened? Well, the explosion of cocaine and then crack cocaine later on the streets of America. Well, what was going on then? Well, gee, just coincidentally, our military and, of course, a whole lot more intelligence assets were all kinds of involved in a wonderful place to grow coca plants in South America, weren't they? You know, and just like today, at this point in time, we have a lot of heroin on these streets, okay? Well, magically, it's come, you know, into focus and become more of a problem ever since we went to a nice climate to grow heroin and poppy plants, over in Afghanistan. Is that a coincidence? I think not. You know what I'm saying? And so not only is it a war we can't win, even if we were attempting to legitimately win it, but it's a fiction anyway. You
Well,
know?
it's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. You don't think a capitalistic society is going to want a part of that? Come on, folks, wake up. It's the truth. I mean, own it. I mean, look at it this way. You were talking about us having military installations all across the world. Well, what would happen if we actually started helping countries because we wanted to, with no strings attached, building real friendships across the globe? I mean, real solid friendships. Now, you've got your countries out there that's never going to be our friends. Most of them running around over in the Middle East will never be our friends because we have different ideology, basically. And it amazes me of all of the people that sit there and want to push money at this to make it better. It's not going to get better. You cannot buy your enemy. If your enemy is your enemy, he's your enemy, especially when it comes on the side of religion. You're not going to overcome that. I don't know. You probably see the memes all the time on Facebook that says, "Let them starve to death for free." I have no problem with that. I mean, I know it sounds really heartless and maybe inhuman, but I mean, I'm a realist above all, in my way of thinking. Why pay people that are going to hate you? Why feed them? Why give people billions of dollars while your veterans are laying on the streets in America without homes, without proper medical care, so we can look good to the world and be politically correct because we gave them money? And don't think we didn't give them money with strings attached. We didn't give them a thing for free. We're wanting something for it when we do it. And that's something else our foreign policy's really done badly on as a nation. I mean, we've got to get to where we as a we've got to get back to the human race basics. We've got to start doing things because it's right, not because it's profitable.
Well, like I said, I'm really glad that we're going over a lot of this stuff because, again, and anybody who usually listens to my show, that that I've got a different slant on this stuff. But I'm really glad that I'm getting to hear this directly from you and giving people that listen to me normally a chance to hear you, because the basic principles. What we're about actually is about getting back to being the free individuals that we were supposed to be. We're very much about not seeing our country involved in all sorts of adventures it doesn't belong involved in. And we both have the idea that helping our own people is something that is not bad. And I don't care if it's on an individual scale or on the government scale. To be honest with you, if that's really what the government was wasting all its money on, I wouldn't be so upset. I get a whole lot more upset when I see that we're, again, still involved in Iraq and all the money that's costing us, not to mention the lives, the innocent people over there that are getting caught in that crossfire, but our own people that are getting damaged, destroyed, and killed also, one way or another. All of these costs are part of the problem, in my opinion. And here's the thing. If that money was being spent on taking care of people, here, who had, their issues or making their lives better or making them more productive members of society, I could agree with that a whole lot faster than being involved in all this mess over in the Middle East.
Oh, I'll be 100% behind that, too. And you remember the big distraction last year when it comes to the border? I kept telling people, you guys are looking the wrong place. Y'all are preaching to the choir. You're doing exactly what the government wants you to do. Folks have been coming, Mexicans have been coming to this country across that border since this country's creation. It's going to happen. We don't have a problem bringing them here to prick our crops for us because we don't want to do it. I mean, and basically they do the jobs that most Americans don't want to do. But, you needed to be more aware of the folks they were bringing in on 747s and 777s on our east and west coast or our major airports that are here to actually hurt us. Most Mexicans come here just wanting a better life. Most of the folks that these guys have been important for the Middle East ain't here for that reason. And Americans need to wake up and realize that in a heartbeat. Well, if they don't,
Yeah, exactly. Well, anybody that doesn't think that our borders are porous all over, and it's not just the migrants coming from down south that are the problem, it does put pressure on the economy. I understand that, and it does do damage. I get that. But the fact is, that's always been going on. This is nothing new, like you said. There are people that are coming, from other places that are not necessarily too thrilled to be here. That's for sure. But there are a lot of them also that are just coming here for an education or coming here to extract some money out of here because where they saved up to get out of, is not a place that was producing enough money to take care of their families and things like that. And some of them are just sending the money back home. And again, this is this is a much larger issue than just that one big influx that came in, south of the border. Um, and it's a nebulous kind of thing because, again, there's a lot of these guys coming over here that don't. And believe me, I am not about talking about the. To me, the whole idea of terrorism on this soil is mostly, again, another fiction. Okay, because the majority of individuals that are coming here are not here for that. It doesn't matter where they came from. They're here. They may not be too thrilled and willing to wave our flag anywhere or anything like that, but most of them are here for economic advantages. Most of them are here for other advantages, not having to do with coming here to wish us harm right away. In my opinion, okay, I think a lot of that has been fear mongering to try and get us looking for the Muslim under our bed, which I think is completely unfair because this is not the reality on a daily basis. I think most of that has just been whipped up to create a hysteria and to create a heightened sensitivity in the population. I mean, look at the recent stories where we've had people arrested that are supposedly becoming radicalized, right? I mean,
Right.
what do you think of that whole thing where, the radicalized Westerner is now part of the new boogeyman scenario?
Well, I mean, and they pushed it. They pushed the American people to that level. I mean, what gets me is they have supposedly, now you know how this works, and I have been hearing the stories since we started this, have not got one sliver of real evidence about it, but they say that we have training camps all across the United States, terrorist training camps. Now, that kind of makes me angry because our own people, our own FBI and DHS went into Ruby Ridge and Waco against Americans, but we're letting these operate inside the country. I just can't really buy that. But hey, I may be wrong. I mean, God, I hope I'm right about it. But it's a very good possibility it could be happening. The guy in the White House isn't exactly a proud American if you actually listen to his lips move very much.
Mm. Well, and that's the thing. The guy in the White House isn't even the problem, because, like you said, look at what the FBI is doing. I mean, look, if we just go back to the one standing World Trade Center. I mean, remember what happened in 1993 during that bombing? An FBI guy, a guy who was being a controlled asset from the FBI, who's allegedly there at that time to make sure that something like this doesn't happen, is the guy who winds up building the bomb. That explodes in the basement of that World Trade Center, and now that's all public knowledge, but nobody even talks about it. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, look at. I follow you exactly because I tell people every day, and they get really, really off-centered when I tell them this. If you really want to know why the world hates the United States, read your history books, folks. Get into some true history. We are not nice people. I mean, the country is never. We've always pretty much inflicted our will wherever we wanted to. Everybody talks about the Mexicans in California and Texas. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, we paid them for it later, but hey, let's be real. We took it from them by force. Hey, I mean, and we've been paying the dues for that forever. Look at all the other wars we've been into that we've never kept or occupied any country, as in a new United States state. Now, if you're going to go to war and you're going to fight over a principle, yeah, I can see that. But World War II, we should have made some differences in Europe. We should have stayed there and taken care of the things. Everybody wonders why Al Qaeda and all of them hate us. Well, let me give you some education there. when Russia was invading Afghanistan and they occupied Afghanistan, and then we went over there and gave them food and water and guns and all the war-making materials to be able to fight their own battle. And as soon as Russia pulled out, we didn't have any friends there anymore. We let those people go hungry. We let them starve. They were no longer needed in our little world, our little agenda. And we've done those type of things as a nation for years. It just, we have friends, and then all of a sudden we don't need them anymore, so goodbye. I mean, I'm not anti-American. I'm 100% American. I'm anti-American government. Things that we have allowed to happen under our watch is deplorable on a humanitarian scale worldwide.
Well, right. I mean, I'm not anti-American either. I'm anti-corporatist America, which is the situation that I find myself in here. The system as it is laid out right now is a wreck. And I mean, look, the whole thing with the Mujahideen and Afghanistan, these guys came back to bite us anyway, because who is Al-Qaeda at this point? Well, the database, as it were, is has its roots with us supporting them against the Russians. All right, because the Mujahideen was not even native to Afghanistan, and we got ourselves all involved in that. And that's where your Osama bin Laden figure comes from, regardless of where you come down on whether he died this day or that day or whatever else. I've got a hard time, believing that people that were our assets keep flipping over. But then again, we always seem to flip sides. This is the other thing, like you were saying, take a look at the actual history and talk to some of those people on the ground in the Congo, in Vietnam, in Laos, in Cambodia, and hell, if you want to get closer to home and talk about that influx of immigrants, take a look at the adventures that the CIA was involved in Guatemala. I mean, that Guatemala is right there. And some of these people that people call Mexicans all the time are actually Guatemalans, and they come out of a broken system that we broke. Okay? In modern times, not even just back to the original land grab, but I mean, in modern times, what happened? There's a reason why the American empire is unpopular. I don't support the American empire. I'd like to see us return to the country I was taught about, when they used to teach civics classes, which I don't think they do anymore. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying?
I understand. It's an amazing turn of events what we brought on ourselves. Well, actually, I don't say the American people haven't done it, but we've allowed our government to do it.
Well, and that's the key, right? I mean, just like you said, if you want to talk about assigning blame for the disastrous situation, it really falls upon the people who were meant to keep the government in check. Now, look, I know I could discuss this kind of stuff with you all day long, okay? But to be honest with you, we're down to the last, 45 minutes or so. And I want to make sure before we wind up getting out of here, because my bumper will kick in at, just a couple of minutes before 8 o'clock, my time here. I want to make sure that we give kind of an idea of what it is you're doing over there, over at WINN, and talk about some of the hosts, some of the shows, some of the stuff that you've got going and got coming up, before we forget about it and keep going on in this discussion, because we could do this all day.
You're right. You could have me on this conversation for the next 24 hours. Okay, I'm just gonna go through our pages real quick. We have some of our pages actually are incorporated with our radio shows. We have Wolf that airs every other Wednesday. It's called We Only Live Free. It's the one that you don't want to be a part of. It's about God and country, what Christians' responsibilities are to each other, to themselves, basically to the world. We have Reach Out America Radio Network, which is also a Facebook page. You can find it at www.facebook.com/ROAR. We have, and that's just basically our basic radio show is Reach Out America, and we do Saturdays and Sundays, which is the broadcast on the WARN Network, WARN, World Alliance Radio Network. They're it's basically about current events in America. We basically select hot topics that actually people are interested in, and sometimes we just bring up stuff and make them hot topics, because like the CPS issue we started dealing with. We have Tuesday night, Reach Out America, the Voice of American Veterans. That show is hosted by John Wolf. He's a really great guy. I actually found him online he did a video in his front yard, and I was really impressed by the way he communicated his thoughts. So I gave him an ability to be able to help the American veteran by giving them a voice on Tuesday night. We have Wednesday night, which is going to be also Anonymous Behind the Mask. And what that basically is the real representation of the group Anonymous and who they really are and what they're really looking to do. And they're not the radical, extreme people that, every faction has that part in it, regardless.
Well, right, and that one caught my eye, to be honest with you, Bobby, because I was like, well, now this will be interesting because there's a lot of misrepresentation about who Anonymous actually is. There are people that have sort of picked up the banner and, identify themselves as part of Anonymous that actually have nothing to do with the group. And I think that's going to be a fascinating show that people should check out for sure because getting down to the reality, again, the real facts, would be nice.
And that's not.
Whoops, I lost you there for a second. Oh, can you still hear me?
Put the quarter in the parking meter for somebody. Those are things that we need to get back into educational process to teach people to take care of each other, to look out for one another, have a form of brotherhood amongst Americans again. I was telling you a story that back in August 28th, I had taken a few moments of my day and I scanned through the networks, watching the news. Which up by the end of the day, I started looking around my house for my bags. I thought I'd been on vacation to 4 different countries. And I'm like, this is absolutely not acceptable. We've got to be able to have some true news out here. So that night at 2:49 in the morning, I created 100% Integrity America. And she's done grown to 3,400 people on the page in less than 6 months. It's all been organic growth. We've then orchestrated and started 100% Integrity Australia. We now have 100% UK. We have 100% Integrity Canada. And we're going to stop there until we get those done. We have, I call it my play page. I mean, I have right-wingers in my group. We have lefters in my group. We have middle people. So we have now you see me, now you don't. Then just go in there and just bomb something on the page. And it's kind of like our steam room that we actually get out there and just have fun in and spout whatever we decide to do. Everybody needs their little vocal points. Then we have our own page that we brought about called Choices. It's called America's Hopefuls. Now, Wynn does not actually admin that page. What we're doing with that page is we're giving every politician a voice on that page. If you're a politician and you want to be a part of that page, we add you to that page. You are allowed to put your points. You cannot promote your party, but you can promote what you think's wrong in America and how to fix it. And that's we're opening that page up for people. We have Americans and Exceptional People. That's basically spotlighting people across America that are doing really cool stuff for each other and cool things for the country. And cool, just things that make them exceptional people, and then trying to get Americans to embrace the idea that we are an exceptional people. We're 236 years old. We are the baddest boys on the block, and we didn't get there by being stupid people or ordinary people or mediocre people, Then we have, my friend, I call him my little brother, one of my best friend, David Miller. I think you may actually know David. He started Revere's Riders. Actually was our Sunday and Wednesday show. He has real severe PTSD issues. And so we shows for him and are running them, and he's always welcome to come back to those shows whenever he wants to. And we changed the name of that show basically to Reach Out America. And the reason why we did this is because WINN is wanting to actually be incorporated. We're wanting to make a difference in the country, but we're actually wanting to be able to one day make this a ability to make a few dollars out of it, so we can actually spend some money and help people in the right way. Mm-hmm. It's not about being rich by no means. Trust me. We have we have Stop the Slaughter. Pets Lives Matter. That's basically about all the cop killing of family pets across America. We have the page Help the Homeless Feed the Need. And we actually break that page up during holiday seasons, so where we can actually get people into the places where they can go get a free meal on those days. We put our whole crew involved in that on holiday season, so nobody out there is going to be alone on a holiday or have an empty stomach on a holiday. We shouldn't have an empty stomach any day, but these are holidays, and people should be able to feel like they're part of it. We are an alliance. We are with an alliance, a World Alliance Radio Network, which belongs to Renegade Smith, a really good friend of mine. He's opened the doors to his network to let us do all of our shows on. We have a show we actually have a page called A World of Wonder and Humor. So and so many other things that we have, the World in Science and Nature. One of our sister pages, Americans for Constitutional Recovery. We have Remembers with the Coalition, which is like four or five networks. So I mean, we kind of make the base broad to where we can actually reach into every aspect of American life and try to make some type of positive difference there. Now, when it comes to our radio shows, we still have, let's see, Renegade does the New Element, which is on Thursday night. Then we have Friday nights, which is the Reach Out America, the Week in Perspective with James Bostic, awesome guy, great orator, and then like I said, we have Sundays coming up. It's going to be every other Sunday is going to be Freeman and Freeman, and that's going to be the classes on the Constitution. It's going to be basically teaching people what the Constitution means, what each article actually was designed to do, and giving Americans an actual classroom-type radio show to actually learn the correct things that they need to know about the U.S. Constitution. And every other Sunday, we're doing Ernest Lee. Yeah, but most people call him General Lee. He's going to be doing his show about the American exceptional part of the world. And they're talking about giving us another slot, and they're talking about Warren is trying to start thinking about doing 3 hours a day and cutting and bringing the shows to an hour and a half apiece. That's going to give us 14 avenues to get information out there. And I'm like, oh no, you don't. No. Not enough right now, okay? I got Robert Kilpatrick, which is my program director. Most people don't even know him as Keeper. Does an amazing job for the company. Man, I don't know what I would do without him. I've got Gene Strong that runs our pages. And without Gene, please believe me, I would be somewhere in a rubber room with an IV with a smile on my face, because she keeps the craziness out of my life. We've got I've got, like I said, we have John Bullington, which is part of our IT department. He pretty much takes care of the things that we're trying to get orchestrated on the web and stuff. I've got Drew Armstrong, which is our public relations, along with Paul Tent. Really, really bright people that bring a whole lot of meat to the table. Then I've got my radio host. It's John Wolf and Bub Conley and James Bostic, Robert Kilpatrick, Denise Freeman, Franklin Freeman, John Wolf, Ernest Lee, and I think, and of course myself, that just put a lot of time in this. And this is an all-volunteer organization. These guys come to work at 6 in the morning, and we're still chatting on our chat room. You've been part of it at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, it was nonstop, and the group you added me into, just watching the production, the arrangement of everything, it was pretty interesting. I have not seen a team like that working together out there in a while. And of course, I'm a singular member of the coalition. I don't represent a network. I just represent myself on there. But I do my thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Chuck, anytime that you need something from us, like I said, we have our own graphics department, Lisa and Todd Bakke. All the images you see that are the videos that we put out are done by that department. They put a lot of time and effort into promoting the WIN message. I I don't know if you guys have got to see the Paul Harvey one that we just put out a couple of days ago. If I Were the Devil, it's a video which was produced by Lisa Bakke. Awesome. I mean, it was a speech that he did like 50 years ago, and it's so on point of what's going on in the world today. The things that he foresaw that was coming. It was amazing, and we actually put it to the video and put images that actually addressed each issue he brought about. And our job as a network, as I see it, and we do it with one thing: it's education through correct information. That's what we strive for. I mean, do we make mistakes? Yeah, we're human. We make mistakes. Make them every day. We're not perfect people. We try to correct them. Yes. Do we always catch every one of them? I'd like to say yes, but I mean, let's be real. I mean, I'm sure there's some things that slip through. Like I said, we're all human beings, but the efforts being made to give the American people 100% true information, fact-based information, so they can actually start sinking in and listening. That's all I ask. Sit down and listen to what we have to say, and don't believe anything we have to say. Go research what we said and find out that we're telling you the truth. That's all we ask of our listeners. Because, hey, without that, you or I or anybody else on the air today is just flapping his jaws and preaching to the choir. And I refuse to preach to the choir. I'm not going to be that guy. I want to preach to the guys that are out there. I mean, we had a show the other day, and we had with the CPS show. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had mixed variety of Americans on the show. From all races and all walks of life, coming to present their case, because people have got to the point to where they trust us, and believe it or not, that alone speaks volumes to me. When I have someone come to me with a problem and say, "Hey, they understand, that we're busy, but can you possibly help us with this situation? This is what's going on here." And I mean, I'm going to look into it for you. I mean, my crew's going to look into it for you. I've got, we have a chief operating officer. She's brilliant. I've known her since I was 16 years old. She was the girl I left behind that I should have asked out in high school, but didn't.
Boy, yeah. Okay.
And she keeps all the wolves away. Her name is Dina Warner. I mean, she keeps all the wolves away. She's awesome. We got Darlene Bond. That's she's a nurse, lives in Florida, great lady. We have Mark Hoffman. Everybody knows who Mark Hoffman is. He's our second half of the hour on Friday nights. It's Patriot Nation Live with Mark Hoffman, is our other radio show. If anybody wants to tune into any of them, the phone number is the same every night. It's 516-453-9128. The show starts at 7 Eastern Standard Time, or 6 o'clock Central Time, which is I put on all of our meetings because I can understand it. I need to know what time I got to be at work, so put the right name, put the time on there that I know what time it's going to be there. But I mean, with my crew, I mean, each one of them was hand selected. They are really, really devout Americans. They're not radical people. They will sit and listen to it happens every day. We sit and listen to people's perspective of things, and I have this philosophy. My mind can change with new information. Can yours? Well, that's what I ask.
Well, see, that's exactly what I do with this show. Is I bring people on, and I let them tell their story. I mean, I interject myself into the conversation. Obviously, I'm not here to just listen to somebody else talk on the air, but mainly I like them to tell their story. You know what I mean? Whether we're talking about a historical situation, because I'm very much the history guy when it comes to modern American history. I talk a lot about the Kennedy assassination because I spent many years studying that. But I've had guests on here to talk about, things that happened in Iraq in 2003. I've had guests on here to talk about what happened that night that RFK was killed. I have had people on here to talk about the Kennedy assassination, obviously, JFK. I've had people on here to talk about the King assassination. I've had people on here to talk about different events that have occurred in Canada, like that whole thing when that shooting went down. All sorts of different perspectives. And I don't necessarily agree with 100% of everything everybody says. Very rarely do I really jump on somebody, unless it's something about the Kennedy assassination, because I'm sorry, if you spend 20 years working on something you tend to be like, no, wait a minute, I got something to add there that I think you might misunderstand. So I do that, but I mean, generally speaking, I like to have people on to discuss where they're coming from, and people who I have, kind of a kinship to in one way or another. I don't bring people on that I completely object to, ever, you know. And by the way, Renegade will be on here. Let's see now, about 9 days from now, something like that. So we'll see how that show goes.
I want to do a shout out real quick of our newest members of the team. I'm not going to put their full names out here, but when we did the CPS radio show, we're so overwhelmed with people pleading for our help, and these people come out of the woodwork. Because I was telling folks we've got 7 radio shows to promote and to produce. We've got 14 Facebook pages. I was going to tell you something else too. We're taking the four Facebook pages to the news pages, and they're going to be merged into 100% Integrity News Network. Even though they've got full admin staffs on every one of those pages, but it's got to the point to where when we start looking at turning things into the business that we're turning it into, when you start looking at copywriting and trademarking all these different names and places, the extreme cost is overwhelming.
Well, you gotta streamline these things into one thing, because otherwise you're gonna nobody has the kind of money it takes to continuously copyright and trademark all this stuff. Believe me, I know.
So. America on the radio, because I figured that's what we wanted to do, is reach out to America. But I was telling you, we had Kara come on board. We've got Sarah come on board. Janice come on board. Raquel's on board. These people just came out of the woodworks. These folks work in the legal industry, donating their time to these people that help in these cases. If anybody has a CPS case that they need to really get into, we've even formed our own email for it. It's called WinCPScases. WinCPScases@gmail.com. So send us your information. We want to hear about it. We want to help you.
That's Win CPS, and that's Win with 2 N's, right?
WINN case, Win CPS cases. Yes, sir. WINN CPSCASES at Gmail.
Right. Just wanted to make sure that was out there correct. So go ahead.
So, and if any of you people that are in the legal minded, or actually in the legal profession, and would like to step up and do something positive, get in touch with me. My name is Bobby Beesinger. You can find me on Facebook. You can find us at any of our pages, or you can actually give me a call at 901-801-7595. We're trying to get enough people together to make a difference in the world, and we've already got 40-something people on staff. And I know that I haven't mentioned everybody. Please forgive me if I left you out, guys. It's not the fact that I don't consider you important. It's just that I'm old and my brain is this afternoon. It's called sundowners. Are you still with me?
I hear you. I'm not quite as quick as I used to be. There's a good example. I tried to unmute myself and didn't.
Oh.
But
I was wondering, did he just log me off or what?
Oh no.
Don't feel bad. The other night we were doing a radio show and I'm sitting there just going off, and all of a sudden I'm getting mad because nobody's responded to me, and I look at my phone, it's muted. I'm like, oh, dummy you.
I do that all the time on this show.
And the greatest thing that I try to tell my radio host, and I really like the way that you've done this, because you kind of run the show the same way I do. The greatest thing you can do as a radio personality at any stage is to let people know who you really are, how you really think, how you feel. Talk about your family. Talk about what you do during the day. Talk about what means something to you. Let them be able to identify with who you are, because when they can start identifying with who you are, you can start identifying with them.
Well, right, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day is, the people that are listening to this kind of stuff, they're looking for the alternative and they're looking for something to identify with. And, for those that can identify with me, first, let me say I'm sorry. But, but second, let me say thank you. Because I do appreciate every single person that decides to tune in and listen to this, whatever it is I'm doing on any given night. I do appreciate it. I always say that during my shows as well. I talk about my kids. I talk about stuff that goes on, and then I get into the meat of the discussion, and we try and or I try and introduce people like you to whoever's bothering to listen to me to say, listen, here's a good. Let me just put it this way: I just see you as a good guy. Okay, just in general, the way I'm watching the things that you do, I don't necessarily agree with everything that you got to say. But listen, if I agreed with 100% of what you have to say, then you might be a cult leader. You know what I mean?
Well, the world would be fun. I mean, think about it. I mean, if everybody agreed with everything I had to say, there would be no sense of me being anywhere to say anything, correct?
You got it. There'd be no reason to have a discussion because we'd already be on the same track. And that's... Go ahead.
What nights do you do a radio show, sir?
What's that?
What nights are your shows on?
Well, the live shows air Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays.
Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Okay.
Yep.
I tell you what. What are you doing on the 22nd?
22nd. I don't think I have any plans yet on the 22nd.
Well, we can put you in an Anon show because you're an anonymous American doing cool stuff for America. So, yeah, let's book you on Wednesday the 22nd. How do you think about that?
Well, I don't see why not. Let me see. Wednesday the 20th. What time of day would that be?
That would be 6 p.m. Central Time, which is going to be don't make me figure that out. You're going to make me look stupid and salty.
It's 7 p.m. Eastern. It's okay. I got you.
Okay, 7 p.m. Eastern. Okay. Yeah, and the number again, if you guys want to listen in to we rate Chuck over the calls, it's going to be 516-453-9128. And the great thing about what we're doing, Chuck, and I think you're going to identify with this, is it gives us an individual ability to be able to reach people and maybe educate them or give them something to think about. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm not here to tell you how to think. I don't want to tell you how to think. I don't want to put a spin on something. And if I come across and tell you my thoughts, I'm going to tell you these are my thoughts. That doesn't make they're set in stone. These are just my processes.
But right, your goal is the same as mine. It's like, look, here's some information. Now, please think for yourself, digest it for yourself, and figure things out for yourself. Because you're the one who's going to have to live with whatever it is you figured out. I don't want to dictate the way that you think necessarily. I just want to give you something to think about. You take it and run with it your way. You know what I mean? That's always been my position when it comes to this stuff. You know what I mean? And this I think is exactly where you're at. Is look, here's some information. Oh, and I'm being asked, by the way, on because I get questions on the Skype through text.
Okay.
They're asking me where they can find your archives because they want to hear the CPS show, I think.
Okay, you can go to www.blogtalkradio.com/World Alliance and look up Reach Out America. And the CPS show aired, that was Sunday night, which would have been the 5th, the broadcast on the 5th. And you could be able to find that information as far as the CPS show.
There you go. And like I said, I was listening to it, and it was definitely interesting to listen to somebody carry it that way. It wasn't just somebody coming on and screaming about their problems. It was an actual discussion about what was going on, and I found it most fascinating because it was actually real. Okay, and I don't often say that I really like somebody's episode or anything like that. I don't do that, but that one caught me, and I didn't expect it to. It was a random thing, and it was sort of like when you and I were in contact. I said, well, let me go see what he's doing, and I caught that show, and I said, this is different, and this is the kind of thing that needs to get out there more. I haven't done a CPS show, but believe me, I want to. It's just that it's extremely complex. And I don't want to be irresponsible with it, You have
to be really, really careful when you do a CPS show because, like I said, the problem with doing the show that you find is that you're presenting one side of a story. because the government can't present their side of the story. I mean, it's against the law for them to talk about these cases. I've even went as far as to have the guests that were on the show call these people and offer to give them a release of information to where they could actually come on the show and talk, and they still refused. So that told me right then when they were given permission to present their side of the case by the people in the case. But there again, they're also representing the children, so the children can't give that permission, so they cannot actually do that. So that makes you have to really do a lot of homework to make sure what you're saying is on point. Because, like I said, there's a lot of folks out there. You know, I had a lady, just yesterday call me on the phone and telling me about they come took my kids, and come to find out about it because her boyfriend was dealing dope out of the house, but she didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not stupid. Have a nice day, ma'am. Don't call my number no more. I mean, Chuck, let me get back with you on one thing. I was looking at my calendar here. How does the 15th look for you? Because the 22nd is actually a wolf show.
The 15th? Well, let's see. What day is that?
A Wednesday.
Wednesday. At the same time. I could probably do that.
Okay.
We'll do it, and God knows what'll happen over there. But I know I shook up a couple of people in the little discussion group there real quick because I said you guys referring to Christians, and somebody went, "What do you mean? Do you mean Christians, you guys?" And no, I'm not. I'm not a Christian. I've said it several times on this show. It's not my position. I don't have anything against somebody who is not a hypocrite about it. I take issue with people that are hypocritical. Okay, when you got people preaching to you about your morality and then they get caught. I go back to when I was a kid, and you know what? I never even asked how old you were or anything else, but I'm in my 40s. When I was a kid, Jimmy Swaggart, you remember that name?
Oh my God!
Okay, remember he
and Jerry Falwell. Let's not forget about Jerry Falwell now.
Oh, well, no, Falwell, all these guys, but let's just stick with Swaggart for a minute because he's the exemplar of what happened here, right? He's talking about pornography, rock and roll music being evil. He's talking about the evil things in society, the influences, sexual perversion every night, and I mean preaching, right? Do you remember those shows?
Hard preaching, man. I mean, up there, fire and brimstone preaching.
Exactly. And meanwhile, this is Jerry Lee Lewis's cousin. Let's not forget that. But anyway, back to it, right? He's preaching about all this stuff and banging on the pulpit up there and getting people to send him money, and people are talking about what a righteous and brilliant man he is. And what happens is he gets himself caught with a hooker, right? You remember this, right?
Yeah, and he still has a church, still making killer money because God forgave him, which is all well and good. Okay, I respect that because that's the belief and everything. But it amazes me again, Chuck. I'll say this: if people want to know why people don't trust God, look at the things that's been done in His name.
Oh yeah. But what killed me about that was the whole public spectacle. The replaying, the constant, look at what this guy is doing and everything else. And he's standing on a stage at one point, literally saying, "I have sinned against you." And fawning, faux tears pouring down his face. People like that, I don't have any sort of mercy for. I'm sorry. But when you want to preach to me and you want to preach to the world, that the righteous path, and you want to get everybody else on the righteous path, and you're not willing to walk it yourself. You know what I mean? That's where I take serious issue with these kind of guys. Other than that, though, the general rank and file when it comes to the belief in the Christ or following Christ's teachings or being Christ-like, there is absolutely nothing wrong in the world about that. It's when people decide to twist those things or be hypocritical, like Mr. Swaggart was, regarding this. This is where I sit back and I go, ugh. And again, not being a Christian, I don't identify with that group. Sometimes that puts me in a weird space with people, and that's why I couldn't come on and do the God and country thing. because first of all, that would be an issue, and I didn't want to make a focus on that and have people get angry. Because I've literally had angry listeners who have called me a Satanist and stuff like that for espousing certain beliefs. And literally, what I did on this show was bring a guy who was like he calls himself a magistrar at the Church of Satan, to have him come on and show people, no, this is a Satanist. I'm not a Satanist. Okay? I literally did that. And
talking about that the other day in the chat room. I'm like, hey, here's a guy that's got some real big cojones.
Well, I don't know how big they are. I mean, it's just a radio broadcast and it's no big deal. But my point is, no, if you're going to name call me,
right.
If you're right, I'm going to say it's, you know what, you got me. But if you're wrong, I'm going to show you.
Other than that, don't try it on. I mean, that's why I keep telling people. It's like, for instance, I have my beliefs, you have yours. And the secret of the world today is we got to learn to respect each other's beliefs. I mean, and position. Doesn't mean I have to walk a mile in your shoes. Doesn't mean I have to come over to your side of the camp and hang out. But it does mean that we can meet in the middle, have a really good conversation, and leave that part of it out.
Well, right, or we can just have an agreement, where, listen, the principles of what you believe and the principles of what I believe are similar enough that we don't have to fight with each other. You know what I mean?
In fact, I think, according to the teachings, I mean, basically, what really kills me is all these people. I'll tell you what, I was 15 years old. I was in a Baptist church. Well, this really dear friend of mine, which was a preacher, started having this conversation about boycotting the Disney World because of their same-sex insurance program situation. They started talking about this guy that left his wife and his son when they were children to become gay, and when the child turned 13, the father wanted the son to come live with him and wanted to be a part of his life, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, and it was all about the gay issue, and I'm like, okay, I said, whoa. The thing about church is, the one thing that I read more than anything else in the Bible is God said, love one another as I have loved you. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, the part about this guy being gay should have never been, the guy was a deadbeat dad. I would put some 4 expletives in there on a personal conversation. And the fact that he was gay had no effect. He did not deserve to have time with his child, period, because he went 13 years without the child. And I'm sorry, now that he's old enough and can pretty much take care of himself and be cool to hang out with and play baseball with and stuff, and I ain't got to change your diapers and run after you all the time, I want to be a part of your life. The fact that he was gay had nothing to do with that. He was just a deadbeat fella and didn't have access to a son. We've got to quit preaching hate from the pulpit. We've got to quit preaching hate amongst ourselves, because hate never did anything but hate begets hate, according to the book. And it amazes me of still today on church. I mean, I'll tell you another little story that I had a conversation on, and I'm just going to touch on this because I know that this isn't your forte. But everyone was over there the other day on chat room the other day talking about Joel Osteen. Well, he's the Antichrist. He's this. He's that. Well, you know what? And the fact that he's got a mansion. Well, he sold a bunch of books. He works for a living. I mean, being a preacher is a job, just like going to work at a car wash, at a convenience store. It's his money. He spent it. If he wants to live in a glass house, by God, let him do it. That's his decision as a human being. But right. As they talk about this big church in Houston, well, regardless of whether you like Joel Osteen or not, you need to look at what the church in Houston actually does for the Houston community. And they do a massive outreach there with the money that they bring in. And so, judge all you want to, because it also says in the Bible, in case you get that. By the way, I did study some theology in my life. It also says in the Bible that you should not speak ill of God's men. Now, I don't want to be going to the pearly gates or wherever you believe you go and have to answer for that. So I just choose not to judge people. That's just my choice. That's something between you and your Creator, and it's not my job.
Well, right, and judgment. I don't see. Listen, I read the the King James version of the Bible from cover to cover. Okay, and I'll tell you something. I don't recall in there, a whole lot about Jesus exhorting his disciples to judge others. I don't recall that in there. Do you?
I don't either. I don't recall any of that. I mean, you're talking about my team the other day, earlier tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I have a guy that I've been interviewing. He's an excellent writer. He is against the establishment. Period. Right up my alley. He doesn't wear a label, but in the process, he told me that he was gay, and I'm like, well, I had a little conversation with several of my team members and about him, and had them go look at the gentleman's page and the stuff that he wrote, and then in the conversation, I said, by the way, just in case you didn't know, I said, because he's probably going to tell you he's gay. And my crew was like, and so whatever. He's a great writer. What do we got to deal with? I mean, and that's the kind of people that I have surrounded me. We're not hypocrites by no means, but we just don't. We choose not to. We don't like to put labels on people. I mean, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear your conservative rhetoric. I don't want to hear your liberal rhetoric. I want to hear you get up and stand. I'm an American. I'm damn proud of it, and hear me roar. That's what I want to hear.
Mm-hmm. No, I've had several people on my show that I happen to know for a fact have different sexual orientations. It's never even come up on my show. It's kind of odd because I'm doing an in-depth interview and I want to get to know the person. But to be honest with you, I never even bring it up because it's not pertinent to what the work they're doing, or the history they observed, or the book they're writing, or the book they've written, or the poetry they've done, or whatever else. It's just not part of the conversation because that's not, I'm not out here to make a statement about their sexuality. Now, do I have my views on that? Yes, and in fact, in some cases, people have thought that I'm even more hardline than your, most devout Christian on the subject. Okay.
Well,
because I'm not as though, I'll tell you how I feel about it. It's kind of weird, but I feel like this, that because of the way the world is at this moment, because of the biochemical mixtures that have gone on in our food supply and everything else, I think that our sexuality is basically being attacked on a biochemical level by the great corporations. Okay, there are a lot of estrogen mimickers in the food supply and in the water supply and so on and so forth. Okay, so I believe as though a whole lot of people that believe that they are gay or homosexual or whatever have their entire endocrine systems being challenged by the greater corporations' chemical warfare against us. Okay, so first of all, I think of a lot of them as victims only because they're not allowed to be themselves, because they've been altered by this chemical crap in our system, and I mean in our ecosystem, in our water or food. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of these issues, and that's the way that is. Do I think it's a natural condition? No. But on the other hand, I say this: my desire for my own freedom and my family's freedom and for everybody's freedom, okay, states that so long as you are not harming anyone else, I support your right to do as you choose or as you please. Okay? So altogether, it's very simple. I feel as though a lot of people have been victimized. A lot of people have been damaged in their brains and in their bodies in a lot of different ways, through a lot of different means. But at the same time, I would like to see that stop, because that's not the choice that an individual made. But if it is a choice that they made, if they were born that way, if they were turned that way, if their psychology went that way, as so long as they are not doing any harm to anyone else, I see no reason to bother them in any way, shape, or form. And that's every individual from any perspective on this stuff, and that's how I feel about it.
The funniest thing I ever run across, I used to be in the nightclub business, and it was a hot discussion one night, and we own bars all over the country, and they were anywhere from biker bars, gay bars, to straight bars, to any type of bar you could imagine. We owned it.
Right.
And I have to go in and do inventory or do a remodel of the club or what have you. Well, I saw this little gay guy one day, and the preacher was out there talking. He was talking about, the preacher was on TV. I forgot, one of the big preachers, And the little guy got up and he said, you know, the bad thing about this, listening to this garbage on TV is that people don't realize there are 365 admonishments in the Bible against heterosexual people, and only 4 against gay people. It doesn't mean he loves y'all less. It just means that we don't need as much direction as you do. And I couldn't help but laugh at that point. But my point when it comes to the gay thing is, you know, who am I to tell who to love? I mean, it's not my job. That's between you and your maker. And on top of it all, I look at it this way. Why shouldn't they be married? Why shouldn't they have the right to be as miserable as the rest of the country? Good Lord, the poor attorneys need business, y'all.
Well, see, you know what? That's good, but I say, why are you asking for permission to be included in something that doesn't want to include you? You should be allowed to be yourselves, contract with who you want, love who you want, and do as you want. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So long as you are not harming another human being, why is it any of my business?
Right. Well, you have to ask me permission. I mean, well, for one thing, marriage licenses just came a part of the United States how many years ago? And it was only a way to make a little more money?
You got it. You got it. Listen, we've only got about 3 minutes left. So look, I'm going to say this. I want to thank you for coming on, and I know the time just sort of flew by, my friend. we lost it all. But before we go, before we go, I want to give you a chance to just, let people know like one particular place that they can begin to look for your work again, and also if you got any sort of closing thoughts. Like I said, about 2 minutes left or so, and then the bumper will kick in. No matter what I do, it's automated, so you'll hear it. It's loud. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Ochelli Effect tonight at ucy.tv/TOE. Also, go check it out on Facebook. I do have a page there and also a discussion group. And much appreciated any interaction or listenership that you can offer. I appreciate all of it. Thank you. Anyway, Bobby, I'm going to give the last little bit of the show to you to say whatever it is you want, sir. And like I said, just please point people to one spot where they can find you.
Okay. My name is Bobby Beesinger. You can find me on Facebook as Bobby Beesinger. My last name is spelled Beesinger. That's my personal Facebook page. If you really want to find out the meat of what we do, you can go to 100% Integrity America. 100% Integrity America is our main news page. If you want to know what's really going on in the country and find the truth, there you can find it. That's where we come from. You can find us at Reach Out America Radio Network. It's also on Facebook. If you want to find out what shows we're doing and when they're going to be on, all of our promos go on that page for the radio shows. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to my entire staff, most awesome people in the world. I've never seen so many people stand up and really get involved in trying to make a difference in the world. And makes my heart really pound fast when I think about just how good these guys are. I'd like to thank Chuck tonight for bringing me on. They're seeing, like he says, we do have a few differences of opinion, but basically, as you guys can tell, people in America can actually sit down and talk amongst each other and actually work through their problems if you just actually get away from the labels and actually sit down and talk to each other. Chuck, I'd like to do something here on your show that we do on all of our shows, if it's okay with you, sir. I'd like to take the last few minutes to ask everybody to really get into your thought processes and start thinking about the world today. And when you get out in the streets and you see a veteran out there that needs your help, reach out to him. Because you know what? He reached out to you. You just don't realize it. He gave all. So at the last part of the show tonight, folks, I'd like to just do a moment of silence, if that's okay, and respect for those gentlemen that actually gave all, and their families that are still giving all, and the people with PTSD, because we are one America, and we've got to get back to there. Everybody, God bless America. Have a great night. Thank you very much for having me on the show. It's been great.
Thank you, Bobby. And yes, we will do that moment of silence before the bumper kicks in, and here we go.
Stop.